Hey everybody, welcome back to Video episode. Today I got a fun and interesting and confusing video for you guys this evening because just yesterday it seems like Vimm's Lair got about 700 and change DMCA takedown requests from somebody that says they are Nintendo. Now, is it Nintendo? Is it not Nintendo? We're going to take a look at it and try to do the best presumptions possible. But anytime anything like this happens now, I get like 30 or 40 direct messages on Discord and a bunch on Twitter asking me what I think, so we're going to be talking about it today. And if you're not aware of Vimm's Lair or Vimm in and of themselves, they are an absolutely dedicated preservationist that does some of the best work as far as keeping classics alive. Now, I'm sure the comment sections are going to fill up with whether or not you should be able to do this in the first place, and you guys can argue amongst yourself. I think what Vimm does is incredible. This is basically a virtual library of the history of gaming, and considering we all know game manufacturers are terrible at preserving their own work, this is important. Like an entire PlayStation 3 disc set, every disc in the world, that is amazing. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with Yuzu or the DMCA takedown request of the Yuzu forks of the source code on GitHub, but it seems like there might be one of two things going on here. Either Nintendo is doing this and they're doing it in the most ham-fisted way possible, or there's trolls, either pro or anti-Nintendo, doing this in the background, and troll DMCA takedown requests are totally a thing if you are not aware. People abuse them all day long to try to either get a laugh or try to make a point. Now, on Vimm's Lair, the confusing thing here is just what is going on with this DMCA takedown request. There's going to be a lot of detail in this video, so follow along. We'll just take a look at 3 games off the top, 2 made by Nintendo and 1 not made by Nintendo. Super Mario Bros. 3, you're going to say this note here: download box art and screenshots unavailable at the request of Nintendo of America. That means that DMCA at least had the name Nintendo of America on it because it's referencing the source. If we move over to Super Mario Bros. 2, again made by Nintendo, you're going to see the exact same message: download box art and screenshots unavailable at the request of Nintendo of America. And Nintendo has tried to have people remove screenshots of games before. This isn't outside of their purview or behavior in the past, but something doesn't quite make any sense here, and we'll get into that in a bit. But if we take a look at a game not made by Nintendo, just on the NES, the original Castlevania from Konami, that is perfectly totally fine, but that is a Konami property. But the weird thing is, if we go through the list of games on NES and we go to Metroid, I'm pretty sure Nintendo didn't forget they own this one, yet it has not been DMCA takedown requested whatsoever. This is the first confusing part of this. Like I said earlier, this doesn't have anything to do with Yuzu, but these things always seem to cluster together. Like when they say celebrity deaths comes in threes, when Nintendo starts doing things, a lot of times they do a lot of things at once, and sometimes fans, either pro-Nintendo or anti-Nintendo, like to get into the mix here, because I went through the entire DMCA notification on GitHub. If you want to watch that video, I'll leave a link in the comment below, talking about what a DMCA request is and what information needs to come along with it for it to be valid. Now, of course, I don't have a look at Vimm's Lair's DMCA takedown requests, and again, I am not a lawyer, so I never offer any real concrete advice because I should not do that. But when we talk about these files, we're talking about NES, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. Obviously, these files are going to be available all across the internet. Trying to get them removed would be like trying to drink the Atlantic Ocean single-handedly through a straw. Try as you might, you're going to make absolutely no progress whatsoever. It is going to be an impossible feat. But therein lies the question of exactly what is going on here, because Vimm's Lair is an incredible site. I absolutely love it. His preservation work is outstanding, and it should be celebrated. And again, this is just part and parcel, part of the timing of the entire Nintendo Yuzu lawsuit, the DMCA takedown request. Nintendo basically going after a ton of stuff because obviously the Switch 2 is around the corner, but Nintendo seems to solely be focused on Switch related items right now. And I'm sure that's because the Switch 2 is around the corner, and how else are they going to sell you Switch games that are remastered with higher resolution and frame rates? By making sure you can't emulate them easily. But the reality is, when Nintendo goes after sites that host games, they go after them with emphasis added on the go after. They do not send DMCA takedown requests. They do not email you saying, hey, you shouldn't be doing something like this. You've upset us. Would you please take it down? They sue the ever-loving hell out of you. They try to get so much money out of you that your ancestors are going to be taking nickels out of their pockets and handing it over to Nintendo. Honestly, that's not how settlements work. It just sounds like a fun thing to say. So the behavior here seems very unlike the historical Nintendo we all know. They go after people with a steel pipe, they kneecap them, they extract their pound of flesh plus some, and then they move on the next time they feel like doing it. So I don't think that this is actually Nintendo behind these, but it is an outside chance that it is. But we're going to go over some more of the details to kind of reinforce why I think what's going on here might be some trolling behavior, because if you Google any of these terms that you're seeing on the screen here, Nintendo repeatedly over the years has gone after different sites and basically sued them all into absolute oblivion, in this instance getting a $2.1 million judgment. They'll basically try to prove losses and get you to pay for them, even if those losses are just paper losses, they were never going to be actual sales. And the internet is littered with the history of Nintendo's behavior here when they get in a bad mood, and that is not at all what we're seeing with Vimm's Lair. Is it possible that Nintendo seems to think the public sentiment is going against them with all the Yuzu stuff, and maybe they're trying to do this in a secondary manner? That's possible, but I honestly don't think anyone at Nintendo is actually taking the temperature of your average gamer, or that your average gamer has even ever heard of Yuzu or what it does. Remember, just because you know about something and I know about something doesn't mean that everyone else does. And if we take a look at this tweet here, when they're talking about Vimm's Lair seemingly being nuked, there is going to be an addendum onto that, some further information, and that is going to come from Vimm themselves over on their own message boards. They're going to be talking about what they think is happening, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they're 100% correct, because I think that's what's happening as well. If we move over to that post, you're going to see here, it may be the work of DMCA trolls faking notices. That does make contextual sense here, and I do not understand this behavior. If you're trying to defend Nintendo, why in the hell would you want to defend Nintendo? If you're trying to make Nintendo look bad, why are you doing it at the expense of someone like Vimm who does so much for the community? Because trust me, Nintendo didn't forget Excitebike existed. They did not forget that these games are real. Sure, Super Mario World has the same unavailable requests from Nintendo of America, but obviously Nintendo owns Donkey Kong Country, and that is still on Vimm's Lair. Again, Nintendo did not forget that they own this, unless they hired the most incompetent lawyers out there, dumber than a box of rocks, and honestly I've met a few that are like that. Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past is unavailable. Of course, that's going to be one of the higher known games, but Super Metroid's still available? This doesn't make any sense. This seems like someone or some people spent the time to write 700 and change DMCA takedown requests fraudulently and then send them to Vimm, because if Nintendo was in the mood, they would either sue, and if they were trying not to sue, a lawyer would have contacted somebody, in my opinion, and said, you have 24 hours, take it down, or we are going to rain absolute hell down upon you, the likes of which you will never recover from. Because when Nintendo doesn't want something to exist, they don't just send DMCA takedown requests, unless it's something that really isn't that harmful. Gary's mod did get DMCA'd, that does make sense, but there was no reason for Nintendo to sue here. They just could have been saying, hey, we appreciate what you're doing, but we don't really want you to do it with our material. Please remove that from Gary's mod. It's unfortunate that Nintendo is the type of company that can't allow some of this fun to happen, but historically that's just not the company they are. When it comes to their characters, I can understand them not wanting anyone else to use them. I can't fault them for that, and trust me, I can find a lot of things to fault Nintendo for recently. But is there a chance that this is Nintendo? A very small one in my opinion, but I can't discount the fact. More likely it's either pro or anti-Nintendo trolls using DMCA troll takedown notices to just give somebody a hard time. And if it is trolls, that is one of the saddest and most annoying things I've ever seen, because Vimm's Lair is a resource for everyone. But we're done. If something else changes, I'll update you guys, but I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.